In our second video here, we're going to talk about what to do when we have binomials, or more than one binomial in your denominator. And when you get right down to it, I think it's actually a little bit easier to deal with situations like these. Because finding the lowest common denominator, in the previous video we talked about how the LCD needs to be the smallest thing. And that you can use the method of multiplying the binomials together, or multiplying the denominators together in order to find the lowest common denominator. But I think it should be pretty clear what the lowest common denominator is. The least amount of stuff that it can multiply to both denominators to have the same denominator. This has a y plus 4 and a y minus 2. This just has a y plus 4. So if I multiply this y plus 4 by a y minus 2, then they'll be the same. And so that's my common denominator, y plus 4 times y minus 2. So I do that. Y plus 4 times y minus 2. Y plus 4 over y minus 2. Now that's not changing. But on top here, I have to multiply top and bottom by y minus 2 in order to get that. So on the top here, I have a y squared minus 2y. Distributing that y. Make sure that you do that, of course. When you are multiplying the top by a binomial, you make sure that you distribute that binomial across the top there. Now I can combine into one expression. Y plus 4 times y minus 2. Now, a quick aside. You may be tempted to multiply these out. Don't do that. Do not multiply these out. Not right away, anyway. I'm going to show you why not. Y squared minus 2y minus 24. Y squared minus 2y minus 24. Now, nothing combines here, but we're not done. Because it turns out that this polynomial here, y squared minus 2y minus 24, this can factor. We can factor this into two binomials. You should do this on your own. But I'll just tell you. This turns out to be y minus 6 and y plus 4 over y plus 4 times y minus 2. Do you see why we did not want to multiply this out? Because we can simplify. We can cancel the y plus 4 on the top with the y plus 4 on the bottom. Which means our final answer is y minus 6 over y minus 2. That's our final answer. So when you're adding or subtracting rational expressions like these, always check to see when you eventually combine like terms, always check to see if that can factor. And never factor the bottom, or never multiply the bottom until you've attempted to factor the top. Because there's always that chance that the top is going to factor into something that cancels with something on the bottom. So, again, never factor the bottom, or never multiply out the bottom until you factor the top. That's the idea. Never multiply out the bottom until you factored out the top. Sometimes the top won't factor at all, which means go ahead and multiply the bottom. And you don't even really have to be perfectly honest. I talk about, we mentioned multiplying out the bottom. It's not a requirement. Your homework says write out your answers in simplest form. In this case, this is the simplest form. So you always need to check to see if you can factor, but you never really have to. Never really need to multiply that out. Both answers would be acceptable. Now check the next video for how we deal with situations where there's more than one binomial in the two denominators. Turns out it's really not much any more different, and I'd encourage you to try those problems on your own. But go ahead and check out the video if you need a little bit of help with them.